Hello everyone, welcome back to our Mirage.js GraphQL course. In previous video we did testing for our list component. In this video we are going to make our add to do form on the bottom work. Currently it's not working, but this time I want to do it through TDD. Let's go back to our editor and we need to go to our components list. First we need to create a test. So we'll say add to do .cy.tsx. Here we can start creating our test. First, what we need to do, we need to create a function which will render our add to do component for us. Data provider, we already have it. Add to do component, we don't have it, so we can create it. So we say import add to do from add to do, and here we can say arf and some dummy to do for a moment. Return div add to do, and we can continue to create our test. Forgot to export. Now we need to create describe function. Before we will start write any test, we need to connect our mock server. We can copy this functionality from our previous test, and then we can start writing test itself. The first test will check that our to-do item is created and it's appearing in our mock database. So it should create new to-do item. We need to come up with some test to do item, const test to do text. For example, I need to wash my car, wash car. Now we need to render our add to do. By the way, we need to import those things. So after we render our to do component, we can start create to do. So we can say cy find by placeholder text, which is add to do text, no, not add, but type to do text here should be visible and enabled, should be enabled. And then we type there test to do text. Then we need to find our add button, cy find by text add. Our button should be enabled. Then we need to click on it. And then we check what we have in our mock database. We say expect mock server dot schema dot find by. We will be looking for to do, and we say find by content, which is test to do text. It shouldn't be equal null. Basically, that's it. Now we have our test. We can run it. First, we need to stop our def environment because our Cypress configuration will run on the same port. So there will be a conflict. Stop here and test open. Start component testing. As you can see, our test appeared here. So we can try to run it. The test is failing as expected because we didn't implement any add to do component here. Still, let's continue with the implementation. Let's go back to our editor. This time we need to go in our app.tsx file. Here we have our form component. First, maybe let's move it to our add to do tsx. Let's take the entire form there. Now we can replace it with the import add to do. Now we can go back to our test and see that we have it. Yes, as you can see, we can find elements, but we cannot submit. For a moment, let's go to our schema.graphql file. We need to add our mutation type here. We say add to do. It should come with an input, add to do mutation input, which is a content string. It should return to do. Let's go to our terminal and run codegen generator. Now let's go to our queries.graphql file. We need to create mutation here. We say add to do. We provide an input, which is add to do mutation input, which is a content inside. And here we say add to do input, which is a variable input. When to do will be added, I want to see ID. We need it in order to easily merge Apollo cache. Now we can go back to our terminal and we can run our generator. npm run code gen generate. We can go back to our add to do component. Now we can use our generated mutation. Here we are saying use add to do mutation hook. We provide on error handler. We say if error will happen, we need to say to do not created. Let's use our add to do mutation here on the form. we need to add on submit function. This function will take an event. Since we don't use any React hook form or any other libraries, we need to prevent default behavior, event prevent default, and then we can start taking values from this event. Event target as the HTML form element, and now it's our form. And then we can say form, and then we can represent our form as an array of items where the first item will be our input, and then we can say value content, and then our input value is accessible. Next step, we need to fire our add to do mutation, add to do, and we need to provide some arguments to it. We need to provide input as it was declared, and then content. As a second parameter, we can provide few options. On success, what I want to do when mutation is successful, I don't want to refetch our to-do list query. I want to update cache here, and then it will automatically appear in our list. In order to do that, we need to access our query client. Const query client, use query client. Now we have our query client. Here we say query client sets query data. Here we need to provide type get to this query. This is the query we are going to update, cache related to this query. And we need to provide first parameter, which is the query key. In our case, it's named operations dot query dot get to this, because under this key, all the data stored for that query. We need to provide merger function for cache. Here we have all the data. Here we need to say const to do, which is type to do. We take an ID from our onSuccess handler. Here we will have add to do, and then there will be ID. Mock server will return ID for us. We put an ID here. We know that every time when we create a new to do, completed is false. We don't need to fetch that from server. Content, we know that because it's our input. We kinda created our to do here also, but an ID from the server. We need to update list const to dos. Old data, it might not exist. All data to dos. If it's there, we say new array, spread all data dot to dos, and we put our new to do there. If we don't have that, just new array with only one new to do, and we need to return that. Basically, this is how we mutate cache after mutation in React query. Maybe let's disable our add button while it's loading, it's submitting basically, and maybe also our input. So nobody will try to resubmit a bunch of times while it's submitting for the first time. We're done here. Now let's go and start our dev server to see how it's working. Now let's go back to our browser. Let's check if it's working. Let's refresh the page. New text, and we click add button, and it's there. Everything is working as expected. Let's check what we have in our mock server database, mockserver.db.dump. As you can see, we have 11 to-dos there, but our to-do which we created is a little bit different than other to-dos. So basically it's missing completed property. Why it's missing it? Because when we create our to-do on the mock server, we fire automatically generated resolvers, and automatically generated resolver creates everything based on input. And if we will go and check our input, we have only content there. So basically to make automatic resolver work, we need to provide completed here like this. Completed, let's say boolean, and then it will create it properly. But this is not how we do it in real life. We will never say that, because usually we should provide this variable by server. So in normal situation, we never do it like this. So we don't need it. What we need to do, we need to provide custom resolver to our mock server, so it will handle this situation properly. To do that, we need to add a few missing parts. So first, let's go to our Kotlin YML config. We need to provide one more plugin to have all the types we need. We need plugin called TypeScript Resolvers. We need to also go to our package.json and check if we have it there. Yes, we already have it. We don't need to install it. Now we can run our code generator one more time. everything is regenerated. We can go and check in our generated types. We have resolvers type. This is what we need. We can go back to our mock server and continue to create our custom resolvers. First, what we are going to do, we will create our function for resolvers, const resolvers. This function will take mock server type, and it will bring back resolvers. We need to resolve our mutation, add to do. We need to ignore first parameter, which is a root object. According to GraphQL resolver standards, the second is our input. And the last one is context, but we're not gonna use it. I will tell why a little bit later. Let's keep it there for not to forget for me to explain why we're not going to use it. And here we basically say that every time we fire this mutation, we need ask mock server to create for us a new to-do input. In our input, as you remember, will be only content, but because we use mockserver.schema.create, our factory will be fired, and then content, we will override it, but completed will be added based on our factory. But we don't want it to be dynamically completed or not completed, so maybe let's provide completed false explicitly. And now we need to connect it. We connect it here in our create GraphQL handler. We need to put resolvers, which is our resolvers function, and we need to provide server config to it. So this. Also, it wants context from us, undefined, and root, also undefined. We don't use it, but we need to provide it to make TypeScript happy. Now, if we will go back to our browser, we can try to create a new to-do. It's created. Let's check what we have in our mock server. And as you see, everything the way it should be. Now let's go back to our testing environment and see if our tests are passing. We need to stop our dev server because our Cypress is running on the same port. We cannot have both running at the same time for now. And as you can see, everything is working. We passed, so let's close it. The last thing I wanted to do, I wanted to explain why we use resolver as a function here and pass mock server here, because if we will console log this context, .log, let's mark our console, context. Let's open it in dev server, it will be easy to explain. We'll refresh the page, my to-do. So basically, as you can see, we have Mirage schema available for us in the context. So you might think that we don't need to pass this mock server function and just use context.mirage schema.create to do and blah, 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 blah. But why we do it like this? So first, because it's difficult to type it. It is possible to type it, but another issue with this, if you will do it through schema, when you do context.mirage schema.create and then you provide to do, it won't fire factory. This is the difference. So for example, in this case, we specified completed false and we could do it through Mirage schema, but sometimes we need to recreate an object with 10, 20, 50, 100 properties in this. It will be very beneficial to do it with this way and override only those things which you need and auto-generate others, because with this approach, you need to provide everything here. So because it's not firing factories, that's why I prefer to use this approach. And also I don't need to provide any additional types because we don't have this Mirage schema type. So we need to create additional type here. Less code, the same output. You can use it the way you want, but now you know that there is few options to do that. So feel free to choose the one you like. I prefer to keep it this way. In this lesson, we learned how to use Mirage GraphQL Custom resolvers, and also we tried TDD with Cypress plus Mirage. So right now we have this list which is tested and it's working. We have this form which is tested and it's working. What we don't have those checkboxes connected to our API. So we will do it in the next video. I'll see you there.